Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is Friday night, and you are listening to Paranormal Review Radio, the only radio show without commercials and with more great paranormal talk. I'm Anthony Agati in New York.
And I'm Luci Liebfried in Chicago. Are you ready for another Paranormal Friday night? We are so happy that you can join us. We welcome all of our regular listeners and those of you who have tuned in for the very first time. If you have a question for us or about any of the topics, please feel free to ask us in the chat room or call into the show at 661-244-9831. We'll try to get to you as soon as we can. And don't forget, you can always send us an email with future topics that you'd like to see on the show, or if you just want to say hi. Our email address is paranormalreviewradio@yahoo.com. And last but not least, check us out on our Facebook show page and on our YouTube channel for more information on the paranormal and upcoming shows.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. We have the craziest fans and the craziest listeners. I am just reading chat right now, and there must be weed going by the dozens around the town. It is hysterical. Luci, are you there?
Mm-hmm. I'm here.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. We have an amazing show. This is going to be really fun. We are excited. I think Luci's in a giggly mood. I'm in a giggly mood. It's going to be fun. It really is going to be fun. I want to start off by first saying happy anniversary to everyone who's listening. Thank you all. It has been an amazing 2 years for both Luci and I. And we could not have done this show without all of your support, without all of your love, without you guys being there each and every Friday night listening to us chatter and make fun of each other and just have a really good time talking about the paranormal, getting the questions out there, getting the answers, hopefully, to you guys that are listening about some of the things that you find interesting within the paranormal world and, maybe helping you set your mind and live your life, because that's what paranormal is all about. It's not so much exploring the afterlife. It's exploring the afterlife, but realizing and finding the results that you can bring in to your existing life to help you continue on to your journey. So, Luci, did you want to start off by saying anything?
I want to thank everybody. I am so totally amazed at the people that listen to us. You guys spend part of your Friday nights with us every single week, and it just amazes me every single time we look at the numbers, when we look at chat, this has just been so much fun, and it wouldn't be happening without every single one of you. So thank you, everybody.
She always puts that little smushy attitude towards her speeches. I love it. I love you, Luci. What I wanted to just let everybody know what's the sort of the agenda tonight. And, we're sorry to say that we can't be with everybody physically in a place and a location and celebrate, but this is the next best thing. And what we're going to do tonight is go down memory lane a little bit and bring up, and we've got some really great audio clips from previous shows that we think, we know that are the most popular ones that people have loved and have tuned in and commented or emailed us about, prior to the show and after the show. And then also we've got a controversial show that we haven't really discussed much. over the last year and few months. Maybe it's 14, 15 months. In regards to this one particular show, and we're going to bring it up tonight, and we're going to play a clip from it, and we're going to talk about it. But we also, I just want to let everybody know, we also put up a polling system on our Facebook page, and Lucy's been doing that, and I've been doing that as well, trying to get feedback from you guys as far as what do you think is the most popular show that we've done. And we put out a set of 10 shows that we know from the records and the analysis from Blog Talk that have been the most listened to and tuned into and archived and listened to over the course of basically the last 2 years. And we put that list out to you guys, and everyone has voted, and we took those number of votes and added them to the number of listens that we've had, and we've come up with the top-rated, most popular show. And tonight, we are going to have the guest from that show on with us tonight, and a very special guest, I may add to that.
Well, you know what? It's not just the numbers that on Blog Talk. I mean, one thing that I have to mention that has totally amazed me is the response that we've gotten on YouTube. Ever since we started uploading our shows to YouTube, we have gotten so many listeners, and we're hitting people, all over the world. I mean, some of the comments and emails that we get are coming from all over. So you guys are part of a global community, and it's just amazing. It's just absolutely amazing that there are so many people out there that share the same thoughts, that have the same questions, and are really looking for the same answers that we all are.
So why don't we get on with the show, Lucy, because we've got a jam-packed session that we've got to go on, and hopefully 2 hours is enough time to get everything in that we wanted to talk about. So let's talk about the first audio clip that we put on our list to bring up, rehash, talk about, maybe go a little bit deeper behind the scenes about. So why don't we talk about the show that we did on August 23rd with Bishop Long and Michelle McGlone. Why don't you give the folks a little bit, just a little bit of a background on that show? Okay,
well, that show was basically, it had to do with the TV show American Haunting. And this show, in case you missed it, had featured 4 different families who were having extreme activity in their homes. And it dealt with how these families were dealing with it and what they had to go through to get some relief from the activity. And one of the episodes was about the McGlone family in Grayson, Kentucky. And Michelle McGlone is the mother of the family, and she graciously agreed to come on the show. Now, in her episode, the McGlone family actually got help from Bishop James Long, and we had both Bishop Long and both Michelle come on the show and talk about what it was like to actually deal with what was going on in the home. And this was pretty frightening, because if you've seen the episode, I mean, the activity was actually affecting the children of the family. Michelle has 2 beautiful children. She's got her son and her daughter. And the activity was actually affecting her children. So we wanted to talk to both of them to see what it was actually like, and to talk to Bishop about what he needed to do to give this family help.
One of the reasons why, and one of the things that intrigued us about this episode was the aftermath. After the show had premiered and was on, I think it was A&E Networks, that there was a little bit of controversy that happened after the show. And in particular, it was an issue that Bishop Long had to deal with one of the psychics that was on that show, and one of the psychics that walked into the McGlone family's house and pretty much was a little bit of an aggressor to the fact that the daughter was perpetuating and creating the manifestations that was going on in that house. And there were some instances which happened off camera and behind the scenes that this psychic had made some sort of snide comments about in regards to the family and their religion and the way that he proceeded and to want to do his work in the house for that show. And after the show aired, there was controversy between Bishop Long and the psychic started to call out Bishop Long. And Bishop pretty much laid it out in the open on his Facebook page and said, listen, you're a hack. You were very rude and embarrassing pretty much to the family, to the show, to the paranormal community in itself. And Bishop was very angry. And we saw that on his Facebook and the written words that he was putting out there. And so we said, you know what, let's give him the opportunity to come on air and talk about it and have Michelle on there as well to talk about the story itself. Because even after the episode itself, Michelle and her family were getting backlash from the community. And so we wanted to set the record straight. We wanted everyone to hear it from the horse's mouth. So, Luci, I'm going to play the clip unless you had something else that you wanted to add to that.
Well, I just wanted to say this was a good example of the drama that happens a lot within the paranormal community because of the words between Bishop Long and the psychic and just the things that Michelle and her family went through. I mean, there's just so much that seems to erupt within the community, and we just wanted to hear the truth. We wanted to talk to them and see what was what. And so
And Bishop wanted to clarify things in regards to demonic activity and the rareness of it, and what are some of these pitfalls that a lot of paranormal groups and investigators get into. And so he wanted us again. I mean, he said this previously when we had him as a guest on the show, but he laid it out again for us and laid it out for you guys who are listening. So take a listen to this. It's about a 4-minute clip, and I thought it was really interesting at this point because Luci actually is asking a question that is a very delicate question in regards to her daughter. And this is sort of an intimate point in the interview. And Michelle is describing her reaction, first of all, her reaction to the question that Luci had asked her, and the struggle that she has in sort of formulating her discussion point on it. So take a listen to this.
Michelle, again, I want to, I know if you're not comfortable answering, I totally understand. But watching the show, most of this activity seemed to revolve around Isabella. Mm-hmm. And, being a mother, I understand. I understand how painful it is to see your child in distress. But can you mention what it was like to see this happening to your child and not knowing what to do about it?
That is the most frustrating, tormentful thing a parent could possibly feel, because physically, in the physical world, you can protect your child from so many different things, from predators, and we've always been very overprotective of our kids and protected them from everything. And you can protect them from illnesses and disease as best you can, and you guide them in the right ways, and you do everything that you think is right and good. And then something like this comes at them, and you're shown every single day that you are powerless, and all you can, I guess, you have no choice but to give absolute every single part of yourself to God. That's all you can do, because you can't do anything. You can't fix it. You can't stop it. You can't there is absolute, I don't think there's anything, there's no way to describe as a parent.
No, I understand totally. I really do. But I do want to say that your children are beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
And Bella she's brave. She's a brave child. She really is. And I know how deeply this has affected you. And it's just, I'm so happy that Bishop was there for you. And Bishop, I want to ask, is there any advice that you give to families like the McGlones for coping with this kind of activity, and especially when there's children involved?
The one thing that and I even told the family this when I was there, is that it's really important to stay strong as a family unit, to realize that there might be fights, there might be arguments, there might be thoughts that are not common to you. You just have to realize that those thoughts are from an external force, and that it will be the bond of the family that will get you through this. There is no evil, absolutely no evil, that is more powerful than faith in God and God, the Creator itself. There's absolutely no power that's more powerful than that. And therefore, we always have to remember, while people always say this to me, and it really frustrates me when they say, oh, why don't they just do this, or why don't they just do that, or all you have to do is stand up and say leave. It's a real easy way. It's real easy to sit there and pontificate and say, why don't they just do this? But when you actually live in it, and you're experiencing it, and you're seeing your kids go through hell, and you absolutely feel completely, they're powerless, it's real easy to sit there and judge, and that really irritates me. So to the public, I will say, put your stones down. Because unless you walk in the footsteps of families who truly legitimately go through this, shut up.
Shut up. Two simple words. Just shut up. I don't know about you, Lucy, but every time I hear that clip and I hear that episode that we did, I really do get chills. And I know from that show, you and I both have gotten a stronger bond with Michelle, and it just cleared the path, I think, for people to understand fully. I mean, everybody talks about the experiences with the paranormal and having ghosts in your house. But I think that episode that we did with Michelle and the interview that we did with both Bishop and Michelle, I'm hoping sort of opened up that line of communication for people, that they're not going to feel as what Michelle and her family felt, that there's a way to contact people for help, that there's a way that they can get comfort, and to stop the lambashing that people tend to do, and attack the victims, who I call them victims because that's what they are, and continue to attack the victims and just say, well, why don't you just do this? They'll go away, and that's pretty much what a lot of paranormal groups say. That's what a lot of people who understand a little or a lot about the paranormal, they think that there's just one clear shot to get rid of it, and there really isn't. There really isn't.
Well, you know what this episode did for me. Well, first off, Michelle is amazing, and she's become a really good friend as a result of her being on the show. She's wonderful. She's very strong. But this show really pointed out to me how desensitized a lot of the viewers of the paranormal shows are. They only take into account what they see that's shown on television. And as Michelle had mentioned, the editing that that A&E did on the show left out certain facts in regards to who they thought the entity was, and right. there was feedback from the community, and it was just these poor families, these poor victims go on to these shows, and they're really at the mercy of the editing. Not everything is shown. I mean, as we all know, they're trying to get so much information into a certain amount of time. So not everything's going to be on the show. So a lot of times you're not getting the full story. So it's very easy for someone who just happens to watch the show and say, oh, well, they should do this or they should have done that, and why do they do that? But there's a lot more to it. There is a lot more to it, and until you're actually in that situation, you're never going to know what it's like. And I think Michelle really got her point across about how devastating something like this was to her and to her family.
And she's still continuing to have activity in the home, as we know. It has been talked about from her that it still continues, not to the level that it was before, but it still continues. So, we wanted to thank Bishop James Long and Michelle McGlone for coming on the show and, giving us the inside information and the history and the experiences that they had while taping that episode and their lives. It is a real struggle that she continues to this day, not just her, but her family as well. And so we wish them the best of luck. They are in our thoughts and our prayers. And if there's anything that they need, that Luci and I are here for them. And if they ever want to come back on and talk to us or privately talk to us, we are free to do that.
Well, I do want to thank Bishop Long for telling the truth and for telling it like it is. I mean, that's one thing that is wonderful about Bishop, that he doesn't mince his words. I mean, he gets to the point and he really does tell it like it is. He's not just a character that you're going to see on a television show. He is real, and his mission is real, and we admire him greatly. And like you said, he's welcome back anytime he wants to, and that goes for Michelle.
All right, so why don't we move on to the next audio clip that we wanted to talk about tonight, and the next show that we picked out for one of our most popular or talked about shows. And this one is about the Monroe Institute. Does anybody remember the show that we did, or has anybody ever heard of the Monroe Institute, which was founded by, or pretty much headed up by, Carol de la Huron? And we had her back on in January of this year. Wonderful woman, and she was gracious enough to come on the air and talk about the Monroe Institute and what they do. And in specific, it was the soul retrieval sessions that they do at the Monroe Institute, which we had caught on the Unexplained Files, I think, Lucy. Was that the show?
It's called The Unexplained.
The Unexplained. Mm-hmm. And I was fascinated by that show, and I looped in Luci on it, and we decided to reach out to the president of the Monroe Institute. And we had really great comments leading up to the show itself, because I never knew how many people were fascinated and interested in this institute. And it's a great institute. I mean, Robert Monroe is probably the grandfather of the astral projection age, and all of the metaphysical classes and lessons that you learn today and you hear about today pretty much go straight back to Robert Monroe. And he, sadly passed away a while ago, but his mission and his goals still live on, and it's a great institution. And I wanted to play a clip that Carol, that we had the interview with Carol, that I thought was pretty interesting. So do you want me to go to the clip, or did you want to add anything, Lucy?
Well, I want to mention that this is kind of bittersweet for both of us, because Carol has since left us. She became ill, and she has since left us. And she was really very gracious, and it was just amazing to talk to her.
Yeah, sadly, the Carol passed away on July 4th of this year, so we got to talk to her 6 months before she passed away. And so we wanted to sort of remember her and remember the show, because it was really an interesting topic. It was an interesting documentary that I saw on television, and it was the first of its kind that I ever knew about, and I wanted to share that with everybody, with our listeners. And she was even gracious enough to extend an invitation for the both of us to go down there and spend a weekend, which we never got a chance to do that. But here's Carol talking about the Monroe Institute and about astral projecting.
Well, Robert Monroe wrote many books on out-of-body experiences, and he said that the greatest illusion is that mankind has limitation. Now, Mr. Monroe is said to have developed his out-of-body experience skills spontaneously. Now, is this something he felt that we as human beings could do, or do most of us have to learn how to do this thing?
Well, some people seem to be born with an innate ability, and many children talk about flying and things. And then as they get to about age 7, a lot of it kind of goes away, like other different kinds of psychic skills. But Monroe actually had started researching accelerated learning during the light sleep state, and he was a radio engineer. He actually was the vice president of NBC Radio for some years. And so sound is what he knew. And so to facilitate people getting into that sleep state so he could practice with the accelerated learning, he thought about using sound. And using sound on himself, he tried to experiment, and he was his own guinea pig. And doing that is when he started having these vibrations in his body, and then suddenly one night thought he fell out of bed, but actually realized that he was floating next to the chandelier on his ceiling. And he looked down and he said, "But who is that man in bed with my wife?" He suddenly realized that it was himself and went into total panic that he had died. But as he puts it, he started swimming through the air and finally got back into his body and sat up and said, "Well, I'm not dead, so I must have a very serious brain tumor or I must be totally crazy." And that's how his adventures started. So he, right from the beginning, associated his experiences with the use of sound technologies.
Carol was an amazing woman, and we know now that Carol knows the truth about life after death. Sadly, she has passed away, and so she now knows it, and so she's living it's sort of ironic to say that, but she's living the life now that she has taught so many others within the Monroe Institute, and she's living it now, and I think that's just an amazing feat.
It's really amazing to me to think that here's someone who has pretty much devoted her life to the study and to teach other people about it, and she truly is on the other side now. And hopefully, I would love to have another conversation with her now. I mean, that's one of the things that I would look forward to, just to see what it's like. And knowing how she felt about it and knowing what she was teaching, I'm hoping that Carol is there and trying to reach out to us and maybe teach us some more lessons.
I do want to emphasize that if anybody wants to learn more about her organization and the organization that was founded by Robert Monroe, please visit monroeinstitute.org. It is a private organization that is not funded by the government or anything. It's privately funded, and so if you're interested in this topic and want to further some of the experiments and the sessions and learning sessions that they share with people to pretty much eventually get the answers that they're looking for, I encourage you to go to the monroeinstitute.org website, take a look, check out some of their videos that they have there. They've got some really great classes. If you're interested, I believe it's in Virginia. If you're close by, you can maybe have a weekend session and learn it for yourself. I think it's an amazing institution. It's an amazing class. It's an amazing learning experience that probably will change your life.
They do have a Facebook page, and I will say that I'm still trying to astral project and still haven't perfected it.
I think you got to take more drugs than you already are, Lucy. No? I don't know.
No.
Okay. All right. Why don't we get on to then the third clip that we have? This episode actually was the first that ever really frightened me. And it is the show that we just did in July. And all right, I'll just come out and say it. It's the show Andrea Perron talks about good and evil. That's the way I titled this audio clip. And the movie that is based on her life, The Conjuring. I'm sure everybody has seen the movie The Conjuring. I've seen it. I saw it after the interview. And Luci, I think you did too, right?
Yes.
I thought it was an amazing movie. I loved everything about it. I think the director is Jason Wan, who has done the movie Saw and other movies. I thought it was absolutely perfectly done. But I know it's not the whole story of Andrea. What did you want to talk about in regards to the interview that we did with her?
Well, I just want to the main thing that I got from this interview, and it was talking to Andrea and about her books, House of Darkness, House of Light, where she actually tells the story of what really went on in that home. And just to talk to her and to see what kind of human being she is today. She is brilliant. She is amazing. And she's just got such a handle on life and the afterlife that it was an experience in itself just to talk to her.
And the metaphor that I talk about in this audio clip in regards to the book House of Darkness, House of Light, well, it's her series of books. She has two series, 2 volumes. There's 2 sets right now, and I believe a third on the way. And the metaphor, the illusion that you get from it is sort of that good and evil, the House of Darkness, House of Light. And so I had asked her the question in regards to that, and if it's somehow relatable to pretty much everybody's life, and is there a level of this good and evil that everybody has to struggle with? And so here's a little clip in the interview that we had with Andrea. So take a listen to this. You know, the title of your book, House of Darkness, House of Light, to me, it sort of is an indication or a metaphor or a metaphor for good and evil. Do you believe that your experiences, or for that matter, any person's life, all has some level of struggle between good and evil in their life?
Yes, I think it's omnipresent like God. Every single one of us is capable of committing acts of evil, and most of us on some level have done so in our lives, have either been deliberately cruel to another human being, have hurt an animal, have, you know what I'm saying? I mean, as we grow, as we mature, sometimes we make very big mistakes in this life, and there are people who consider an act of evil stepping on an ant deliberately. I kind of fall into that category, although I'll kill a spider in a flat butt second if it crosses my threshold. All bets are off if you come in the door. But, other than that aside, I really do believe, the best way for me to put this, I think, is I really do believe that we're taking a quantum leap in consciousness right now as a planet. And I see it's almost like watching dominoes fall perfectly. There's like an alignment occurring. Tell me if I got too far off subject, but that's really an important thing to address, because it's our acceptance of fear. It's our acceptance of fear, our embracing our own human frailty to fear anything that causes it to dissipate into the ether. It robs it of its power. And that's what we came to terms with in the house. And that's how we came to terms of endearment. And I can tell you that I love the spirits. I even love Bathsheba because of what she's taught me. Those 10 years of my life were the foundation of all I became later. It was instilling in me a sense of purpose, direction. I knew from a very early age I'd be the one to tell this story someday. I just didn't know how far away someday was. And I also knew that it gifted me with the knowledge that I can live fearlessly, because it's not just ashes to ashes, dust to dust, that the spirit lives on in some form, that there is something beyond our mortal existence that continues on beyond this life, and that when the vessel dies, we go into a form of metamorphosis. And I don't know what it means. I don't know any more now at 54 than I did when I was 12 about how all of it works. And you know what? I guarantee you that no one else does either, because if we don't understand it, no one does.
Right.
And so anybody that tells you they know definitively this is how it is, this is the answer, no one knows. It is the greatest mystery of life, is the afterlife. But that the afterlife exists at all is a miracle to me.
She is amazing. Just her insights, just really to think of what they had gone through. And if you've seen the movie, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, neither one of us had seen the movie when we had talked to her. You know, we just had basic ideas of what the story was. But after you see this movie and you realize that this situation actually happened to Andrea and her family, and to listen to the insight, I mean, I really feel that she's got a real good perception of what the afterlife is. And I think her words, I think people need to listen.
You know, she amazed me. I really started to think a lot more about the words that she was expressing, not so much on the experience of living in the house. You know, as the movie The Conjuring was based upon her books and her life and her experience, the 10 years that she lived in that home with her family, you know, it wasn't so much a reflection that I had upon the experiences. It was the words and the expressions that she had talked about in regards to the universe, to fear, as you just heard in the clip itself, how that embracing it and acknowledging the fear, you are releasing it into the ether, that you are releasing it from you, from your you know, your human body, your human form. You're able to release it and embrace what the afterlife is about. You're able to freely communicate, not openly, vocally, but mentally and spiritually communicate with this other dimension, this other side. And that expression, those words that we talked about in the discussions that we had in regards to that, you know, after we had talked about the history and the experiences she had, I thought that was much more fascinating, because many people think that if you go through an experience such as what Andrea and her family had gone through, that you would think mentally it would sort of disrupt you, that there are things that could happen along the 10 years that you are living at home, especially as a young child, as she was, that could misshape your mentality in regards to how you view the world, how you view yourself. But I was amazed at the fact that she has come out of that even stronger, that her strength is not only exuding from her, but it's palpable. I can feel it. And I think that's what touched me after her interview. And what better way to celebrate our 2-year anniversary tonight but to bring on what has become one of our most popular shows here on Paranormal Review Radio in regards to the interview that we did with Andrea Perron and the experiences that she had in regards to the Conjuring, the movie. What better way than to talk with Andrea. Andrea Perron, how are you tonight?
I'm lovely. I am wonderful. How are you?
Great.
Hi, Andrea. Welcome.
Hi. Hi. Hello, gorgeous.
Welcome back. I'm fine.
I'm on I-95, and my father's driving like a bat out of hell. It's so great. I mean, you know, we are traveling at light speed, baby.
Hey,
I have to get to Philly by tomorrow afternoon. We're at light speed, and we're 2 hours behind because I was 2 hours late this morning.
Oh my goodness.
Life is grand. Life is grand.
You know, your life has got to be one big whirl.
It is, and you know, I did an interview recently, and someone said, "Well, what's next for you?" And I said, "I have no earthly idea." And isn't that wonderful? That's the mystery. That's the fun. The nature of it. I have no earthly idea. There is a lot to be said for living existentially. There is a lot to be said for living in the moment, day by day, literally hour by hour through this life, and watching it unfold. It's all interactive in much the same way that the books are interactive literature. You feel like you got grabbed by the necktie and dragged back into the 1970s. Well, that's how I treat life. It's so interesting to me that I've been such a forward-thinking person my whole life. I was just talking with my dad about that a little while ago, because when I was with the Theater Company of Rhode Island, I must have done over 20 years, at least 40 or 50 plays with the company, and wow. I can only remember a handful of them, but my director can remember every single play and every single character that I ever played, whether it was a straight play or a musical, and he can remember it right off the top of his head. Me, I swipe the hands together and keep on trucking, baby.
Well, you know what, Andrea, you are simply amazing, and it is such a pleasure to welcome you back, and the feedback that we got on the show was just amazing. I mean, you have this ability to touch everyone, regardless of their situation, regardless of what they've gone through. And just your words and your attitude is just so wonderful. I mean, you make me smile. You really do.
Well, one of my greatest faults is that I find myself so amusing. I can crack me up in a heartbeat. And you know what, my mother is one of those people that's absolutely happy being miserable. She's happy no matter what. Truly. And she says, you know what? When she's in one of those phases, like, the falling leaves are irritating her because she knows we're going to have to rake them, and I just look out into the backyard and I say, oh, Bathsheba's curse, and she says, yes, dear, you're right. It's always best to make light of the darkness, always.
Well, the last time that you were on the show was on July 12th, and that was actually a week before The Conjuring premiered. So, I mean, you touched a little bit on it, but how has life been since the movie?
It's been an absolute whirlwind. I'm about 1,500 to 1,800 messages behind between my email and Facebook. I post regular apologies to people. I will catch up because, the thing is that it's important to me that when someone takes the time, and it is a huge investment of time to read these books, I know that. And when they take that kind of time to immerse themselves in this material and read it slowly and absorb it deliberately and then have an emotional reaction to it that makes them feel compelled to write to me, it is my obligation, my pleasure to respond to them. So now I'm just telling people, and if anybody in your listening audience has written to me, please know that eventually I will catch up. I was traveling around the film. I left Atlanta on the 14th of July, and I didn't get back until the 21st or the 22nd, and I'm still playing catch-up from that week and a half that I was gone traveling with my family. And then after that was my father. He accompanied me to Rhode Island so that we could be at the new center of the universe when the film opened. And it was remarkable. Oh, my God. It was, I saw the film. I had the privilege of seeing the film in advance, a couple of months in advance. New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers very kindly invited myself and Mrs. Warren out to California for a private screening of the film. And all we did was pass the box of tissues back and forth and cry. And we couldn't help it. It really touched both of our hearts. Truly, it was a very emotional ordeal to see this story put up on film. There wasn't anything about the film that I found particularly shocking or stunning or scary at all, because what we lived through was so much more intense than what they were actually able to portray on film. I mean, in broad strokes, they really got it right. In the broad strokes, they told the big picture, and that is that good conquers evil and love conquers fear. And just to hit those 2 points squarely on the head, was the most important service done. However, there were, the minutia of the film. They couldn't possibly condense 10 years into 2 hours. It's not humanly possible. But, I feel I'm fine with that because I know that the fine lines of history are written in the pages of the book. So I'm good with that because anybody that really wants to know all the details and all the true story, they can find it. It's right there. So I was delighted. I thought James Wan did a beautiful job with the film. I thought cinematically it was as close to perfect as it could have been. And in terms of the emotional depth of it, the intellectual maturity that was expressed in the making of this film, the sensitivity to the children, the last thing that any of us wanted was to see those 5 little girls as traumatized as we were when we were 5 little girls. And what's really interesting is that those kids are thick as thieves, the same way that we were and still are, our family. When we were at the premiere, they were all over each other. You couldn't have pried them apart with a crowbar. And when I went on a press junket just prior to the film opening, I went on a press junket with Joey King, who plays Christine, in Miami. And the entire time that we were there, she's texting all the girls. I'm with Andrea and you're not. I'm with Andrea and you're not. She's so adorable, just so adorable. And, so they forged an incredible bond in the making of this film. And everybody that was involved with it really made a huge emotional investment. And I'll tell you what. If Lily Taylor doesn't get an Academy Award nomination for playing my mother, Carolyn, then there's a disturbance in the force in the universe because she threw herself into that role. Did she not?
Oh, my God, I agree with you. I love her. I mean, I've always loved her, but in this movie in particular, she was absolutely fascinating. If she does not win, I will never watch a movie again.
Well, you know what, Andrea?
It just wouldn't be right.
Go ahead, honey. I just want to remind everybody that your series of books, The House of Darkness, House of Light, which the movie was based on, it outlines in great detail everything that you and your family in that house went through. But I did read that, like, the head honchos at Warner Brothers said to you that they might have to tone down the story for the film because it was so extreme. How much exactly was that movie toned down for those of us that haven't read the books?
Well, I'll tell you what, the film actually is not based on the books at all, although I did give them a great deal of information to work with, but, I mean, it was a plethora of information between what they had from Mrs. Warren and what they had from us.
Okay.
They had story A, story B, and then they created story C. It was like cherry picking, a cherry tree over here and an apple tree over here, and then amalgamating that information and turning it into a pear tree. It was their own recipe, as it were. And so you won't see a single scene in the film that is identical to the book, nor will you see a single scene in the film that is identical to the case files of Lorraine Warren. It was simply more information than they could use. The other side of that coin is that they were shooting for a PG-13 rating, and in this particular unique case, truth was stranger than fiction. And from what I gathered when I was out in Hollywood in March, talking with the executive producers, they had the screenwriters tone it down significantly because they were going for a PG-13. And in the final analysis, they got an R rating anyway. And because it was just such an intense story. And the word on the street was that they were told that they couldn't possibly list this as being based on a true story if the truth itself was stranger than fiction, if the truth was literally unbelievable. And that's what's in the book.
Well, not long after the movie opened, there was a lot of, news that was coming out and chatter that the original house that the movie The Conjuring was based on and the residents that still live there, they were being attacked by people and by the vandals. I mean, I say it so many times that we should fear the living and not the dead. Do you know how the family that's living there?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the title
do you know
of
how
one
the family?
of the chapters in the book. Yeah, they went through hell. They're still going through hell. And,
they are.
But the thing that absolutely blew my mind, well, it brought the lunatic fringe out, but what really blew my mind is that someone took a crowbar to Bathsheba Sherman's gravestone and busted it to smithereens because of a movie.
That's unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
It's sat there as a relic, as a historic relic since 1885. And now it's I guess it's beyond redemption. I'll see in a couple of days. I'll be there. But, you know, that just blows my mind. And I even made a video about it. And basically what I said in the video is, you know, I looked straight into the camera and I said, I don't know who desecrated Bathsheba Sherman's gravestone, but she does. And woe be unto you.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't say that to scare them. I said it because it's the truth.
It is,
know
right.
Her.
No, it's unbelievable that the things that people do just from the things that they see. And I couldn't understand half of the things that were being reported that these poor people in this house were going through.
And would you want something like that? You know, the people who are doing this need to ask themselves this. Would you want this going on in your family's home? Would you want this kind of trespassing? And, you know, I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous to me that anybody, it could be so amoral that they would not even consider that this is an intrusion on someone else's life. It is, you know...
Has the family gotten protection from the city, or is anything, you know, being done to sort of help the family that's living, or the house and the property themselves?
Yes, there has been, and the police have been there constantly, and arrests have been made.
Oh, good.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Yep.
Well,
yep.
Andrea, you know, I want to ask you this. You know, a lot of people focus on asking you about your experiences, and they ask about the house and the books that you've written. But what I want to know, ever since your journey began and since the movie, have you learned anything new about yourself, your spirit, your sense of purpose along the way that may not have been there before all this began?
Well, that is an absolutely lucid and erudite question, and I'm very impressed. I'm even more impressed with you now than I was a minute ago. Really, you know, truly. Yes, I've discovered a lot about myself, and what I've discovered is that this was what I was born to do. And I knew when I was a kid, when I asked my mother to buy me a journal because I needed to write down what was happening in the house and start keeping track of it and chronicling these events. And I knew when I was 12, 13 years old that someday, I would tell this story. And then I just went on with my life after that. And it wasn't until August of 2007 that an alarm clock went off in my head. There was almost a sense of urgency about it. All of a sudden, I decided it's time. I have to do it now. And I didn't even know where that came from. I was perfectly happy with my life. I had a great job. I was in the theater company. I had, you know, a wonderful life. And suddenly I was dissatisfied with every element of it. And I packed up everything I owned. I left the job that I loved. I left the theater company that I loved, put my critters in the front seat of a U-Haul to ride shotgun, and down the East Coast we came because I knew that I had to move in and be right with my family in order to do justice to a story this big, with this kind of emotional depth to it, in order to absolutely chronicle these events as authentically as humanly possible. And at first I thought, you know, there were going to be people in my family, my siblings particularly, that were not really keen on this idea. In fact, I lived with my sister Christine and my mother, and my mother has been inordinately helpful. My sister Cindy has been inordinately helpful, and God knows my father has been inordinately helpful. It took me 3 years to pry Christine's stories out of her. And, you know, I look back on it now, and I have to say she was the one that was most traumatized. No, it's just so difficult for her. And when you read Volume 2, you'll really understand why.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Volume 1 is a piece of cake. It's all the light and love compared to Volume 2. Volume 2 is where the darkness dwells in this story. And Volume 3 will be out in another couple of weeks. And I think that it's the culmination of it. This is a story that has no end. As long as that house exists and as long as we are alive, we're still processing these events. All of us are. And I'll tell you something, it was tumultuous. It was cataclysmic for our family to dig all of this back up again. My mother once said something so profound. She said, you know, we tried to bury our dead for more than 30 years, and we dug deep. And yet when it was time to exhume them, it's amazing how close to the surface they were buried.
Mm. Did it feel like reliving everything? Did the family express that to you as well? Was it sort of reliving that experience again?
Yes, in many ways. I mean, every single one of us can just, you know, close our eyes and be instantly back in a moment of shock or horror or trauma in an instant, all of us. And it's because when something this extreme occurs in a human being's life, it sears the mind. It's like branding your brain. There's just no forgetting it. There's no getting over it. You just have to process it and absorb it. And I tell people all the time that I wrote the books the way I felt living in that house, the way we felt, and not to try to rush through this. You know, there are a million books that are out there that are just a series of scary stories. That's all they are. And you're going to get the hair to stand up on your arms and the back of your neck, and you're going to look over your shoulder before you turn the light off to go to bed after reading those books. And if that's what you're looking for, go read those books. It takes a special kind of personal investment to delve into House of Darkness, House of Light. You know, you're going along for a spiritual journey in these books, and it comes at subject matter from every conceivable direction, from historical perspective to philosophical inquiry to scientific proxy. I mean, it is just, they don't even know how to categorize this book in the bookstores. It's under about 22 different headings.
You know, we know that you're traveling, and so we don't want to keep you that long, but you mentioned a little bit about Volume 3 that will be coming out soon. Can you tell us when and where can everyone go to purchase this? I think it's is it going to be the final series to the book?
Well, I'm not sure. I've got a publisher that really thinks that I should continue, that there's more to tell. And he could be very right about that. I need to take a little bit of a break because this has been 5 years of my life invested from start to finish. Volume 3 will be out in 2 or 3 weeks. I don't have an exact date on that, but I will tell you this. When that is all done and I can say, wow, I did what I was supposed to do. I have fulfilled my own destiny by telling this story, and this is touching the hearts and minds of people literally all over the world. And so for that, I feel very gratified. It has just changed my life. In complete answer to Lucy's question, it really has changed my life. I have a sense of fulfillment and satisfaction that I've never experienced before now, and I realized that this was what I was supposed to do, and to interact with people the way that I do. And I meet thousands and thousands of people in my travels, and I want them to know that they touch me as much as I touch them. They really do. They changed my life, and I feel such a sense of purpose and also a sense of urgency. I feel that there is still a need to get the word out that there's a great deal of discussion that needs to take place about this issue. And we are really at a new age, at a time of awakening, and the time is now. So let's just keep this conversation going.
And that we will. Andrea, thank you so much for sharing your message. Thank you for writing these books. thank you for taking time out of your hectic life to stop
Crazy
by and
schedule.
say hello. I mean, thank you.
It's my pleasure, darlings. Anytime. You call me anytime, and I will be right there for you because you're my buddies.
We love you.
Well,
I love you too.
Give our best to your dad and to your family and everybody, and safe travels to Philly.
I will. Thank you so much, sweetheart, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a great night.
You too. Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye. I love her.
She's awesome. She's absolutely awesome. I mean, just listening to her and her message, she truly has a message. And I truly believe she's one of those people that has a purpose, and she's fulfilling it. And her purpose is to get this message across. She's one of the ones that's going to help the rest of us find that connection between this side and the other side.
Well, it's amazing because what I was talking about earlier before we had Andrea on the phone was that she's able to take this experience that she's had where normally a lot of people would be, they would stop dead in their tracks because of this horrific encounter and experience that she's had. But she's been able to turn it around and to be able to understand the meaning of the reason why she went through that, the reason why it was her that they were calling out to, that it was her family that was afflicted by this. The reason was because that she was being chosen to speak about it. She was being chosen to hear the truth, to understand it, and then to reveal it and convey it to everyone else. I mean, she talks about the awakening, which not a lot of people will get into if they talk about, their affliction with an evil spirit or with something that has afflicted their family for so many years, with torture, that she can turn it around and say, we're in an age of awakening, that we need to understand this fully, that we need to embrace the fear so that it's released so that we can receive the answers, the true answers. To me, that's an amazing woman.
Well, yeah, because think about it. I'm sure that there are so many people that go through this kind of thing. Maybe not to this extreme, but they're out there. But not everyone talks about it. Not everyone brings it forth. A lot of people just seem to just bury it. But she has the strength and the courage to actually write the books, to get it out there. And honestly, what I really enjoy is not so much talking about the experience, but like you said, talking about what she believes. And this awakening, we've touched on it a little bit here. It's something that's happening, and she's one of the messengers. She is one of the people that is really going to help us through this.
I hope that she continues to write. It may not be just on the experiences. I think maybe that chapter in her life has been eloquently stated in the books, The House of Darkness, House of Light, that she has already published and soon to be published for the third volume. But I think she should continue on this path and to enlighten everyone in regards to the after effects, to what is in your psyche that can be stimulated by an experience like this. And certainly there has been something that has stimulated her. And so to be able to then to put that into words, into a book so that it can be shared by others, to learn, to maybe help others understand it as maybe they have gone through, like you said, may have gone through an experience like this, maybe not to the same degree, but I can guarantee you that her words are going to be uplifting. It's just, I don't know, I'm just really amazed at the fact that she's able to have this personality after the fact. I always go back and I think, if that ever happened to me, I don't think I'd be like her. I really don't think I'd have that strength or that courage. And it fascinates me to find out, where does that come from? How is that developed? And she's somehow been able to create it. Maybe it was that the spirits on the other side created that for her. Maybe they helped her because she did have spirits that were good in that home, and obviously there were some that bad, but maybe the good helped her get through it and developed her her psyche, her mentality, her spirit, the way that it has, so that we're seeing and we're hearing everything that they've helped create. It's just, I don't know, it's just really amazing to me to speak with a woman of her stature and maturity.
Well, we've said it before. Every time we have a show, and we get answers to some questions, they open up a whole bunch of more questions. This was one of those shows that after talking to her, all these other questions started flowing through, and it's like, okay, she's opened up another path where our thinking goes somewhere else. And it's just such a pleasure to talk to her. She's absolutely brilliant. She is an amazing writer, and she's a wonderful human being. And I am so happy that we got the chance to talk to her.
And some of the questions in chat are about in regards to where they can get the book. Yes, I believe it is on Amazon. I believe it's also on Barnes & Noble. There is a website, House of Darkness, houseoflight.com. I believe that's the exact website. You can just go on Google and type in House of Darkness, House of Light, or Andrea Perron, and Perron, and I'm sure you'll find the website and the links to where you can get her books. They are amazing. The movie The Conjuring to me was really amazing. I really enjoyed it, and like I said before, I think in a previous show, that it's really disheartening for me to actually to go to the movies or to get a DVD and watch a horror movie or a scary movie that really intrigues me. And I have to say, people were shocked when I came back and I said, I really like this movie. It was one of the favorites so far. It's in the list right now of being one of my favorites. And to me, that if you know me, that's hard to put that on paper, to put it on that list. So I was just fascinated by it. And James Wan, the director, I think is amazing. I think he actually did a better job in The Conjuring than he did in Saw, in the series, in the first Saw movie. I just thought the way that they depicted the family, and if Lily, like Andrew said, if Lily does not win an award for her performance, there's something wrong with the Academy.
Well, you know what? One thing that I do want to mention, watching the film, she mentioned Lorraine Warren. And one thing that you do get from the film, which I thought was portrayed beautifully, was the relationship between Lorraine and Ed. You can feel the love. You can feel the partnership between these two. And I really enjoyed seeing that. I'm fascinated with Ed and Lorraine, and this just gave me another insight into who these two people really are.
All right, well, we still have a jam-packed show, and so why don't we get on to the other clips that we have, and I can't wait to get to the controversial clip that we have. But first, a little bit of fun later on, but first I want to get to another one of our good friends, Brian Kalick, and I'm sure everybody remembers the show that we did with Brian in regards to reverse EVPs. Now, I thought that this was hysterical, and I know, Lucy, you're probably going to hate me for revealing this, but upon research for the show and prepping to get the show ready for Brian Kalick and, the questions and all of the insight that we were trying to get beforehand, it was so funny and cute at the same time that this got into so much science, and it got into so much of the I can't even think of the word right now, but it went into so much depth in regards to reverse EVPs that I think I felt the explosion that was going on in your mind as you were trying to do this.
It was so technical. Oh, my God. It was like being in school again. I was literally learning about quantum and dimensions, and it was like, I think at one point I was just like, okay, I can't handle this.
It was. I mean, and it was difficult for me as well. I mean, science is not my favorite subject. History is. And so it was pretty difficult because, when we have guests on the show, it's not just a matter of, I don't like to do the frequently asked questions that almost every other show does. I want to learn about the subject and maybe get some insight further further than any other show has ever gone, and I'll try and do a little mini, cram session in regards to whatever the topic is. And so when I was trying to tackle this topic, I mean, it literally, I can see the steam that was coming from my ears, because it was it was just so. I mean, I had to read things over and over and over again for me to really understand it. And, this show kind of frightened me a little bit, because I didn't want to sound or feel stupid as I'm talking to Brian. But he made it so comfortable. He made it really understandable when we were talking to him. And he did have a YouTube clip, and that's where we had first noticed him. And that's what intrigued us to actually get Brian on the show, because it was something that nobody ever talked about, and it was the pitfalls of reverse EVP and the true identity of what reverse EVPs are, and how that correlates to the world and the surroundings around us, and how we should actually be talking in reverse speech when we're trying to talk to spirits. And Luci, you and I actually performed that task of reverse speech while we were at Poasttown Elementary School in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I don't think we got anything in return to it, but we kind of felt the room shift a little bit. The heaviness that we felt within that classroom that we did it, there was a shift, and maybe it was something that they were catching. Maybe they were thinking, wait a minute, they know something, they understand something. And so, or maybe they were catching what we were saying, actually, because when you say it in reverse, they hear it forward. So it was a really different concept. And I want to play this clip, because this was one part in the show that he talked about how the EVPs, or how the speech recognition is stretched. And he was able to explain it in a way that you can visualize it so easy to be able to understand it, how it affects our 3D dimension, and how it's being perceived in a 2D or even a 4D dimension. And so I want to play this clip, but before I do, did you want to add anything, Luci?
Well, if you listen very carefully, you can hear my head explode.
Okay. Listen very intently, and you can see the steam probably coming from Luci's head.
So that's a little...
So, Brian, that was amazing, and I love the way that you actually visualize it for me, especially with the fishbowl in the center of the room, because that actually made sense to picture it that way, that the name is being projected, and as he's turning it, it's being warped and it's being stretched. So then everything that we're communicating with the spirits or with anyone on any other dimension is basically everything that we should be speaking is in reverse. Is that correct?
Yes. This is the tricky part. This is kind of hard to explain. There are certain rules. There are mathematical rules for the way these images go around the sphere. And as they approach the north pole of the sphere, from one side to the other, when they reach the north pole and they cross over it, the image reverses. So you can have these strange relationships where, say, a phrase like, my name is Brian. If I said my name is Brian, well, on one side of the sphere, the projection onto the floor would be stretched, just like a shadow stretched by the sun. So if I was on that sphere and said my name is Brian, you would hear it on the floor as my name is Brian. It would drop in pitch. Mm-hmm. Okay, the minute it crosses the sphere and goes across the top of the North Pole, then it reverses. And now instead of hearing my name is Brian, the projection on the floor will be the reverse of that, which is near FC9. All right, it would change, and you'd hear the reversal of it. So, I mean,
okay.
It's a strange concept, yeah. But
no, I mean, I completely get that. So then basically everything that we've come to know within the paranormal field, everything that we are speaking should actually be in reverse, so that when it crosses over that quote-unquote North Pole, that it would then become forward for them to understand it the way that we want it to be understood.
Yes, and now here's a strange thing. We got to remember that we're dealing with the fact that we're in this 10-dimensional universe. Now we're on the surface of this. We're the surface, just like the sheet was floating on the water. Well, we are bound by certain rules thermodynamics. One of those is entropy, meaning we can only move forward in time and we can only walk on one line. Now, for you and me, as we walk, we're stuck on that surface. So these spheres are always out in front of us, meaning every time we say something, that image gets put onto the sphere in reverse. So if you were on the sphere and I wanted to say something to you like, my name is Brian, if I said it here, when it projected onto the sphere where you're at, it would be in reverse. You would hear Nerb Simon. So if I wanted you to understand that my name was Brian, I would have to do the stereographic reversal here and say Nerb Simon, and you would hear my name is Brian on the sphere. So there's this back and forth play. Now you, being on the sphere, you have much more freedom. You have extra dimensions to move around in. I'm stuck moving in a straight line, but you can move around the sphere, move around me. You can project forward or reverse. You're free to choose whether you want to speak in reverse to me or whether you want to speak forward to me. So if you have more options because you're a higher dimensional being, and I'm stuck always speaking in reverse to you. If I speak normal here on your dimension, it's always in reverse.
Did he confuse you even more, Luci?
I am reliving every moment. You know what? Honestly, Brian put it in a way that I could understand it, and he actually gave us a new technique that we've used and I want to use again, because I think it when you look at it and when you think about it, it actually does make sense. It makes a lot of sense.
You know, he did talk in that interview briefly about the night terrors that he had gone through as a young adult, and he's actually working on a huge project right now that he has let us in on a little bit about it, and hopefully we're going to have him on the show again to talk about, we'll talk about reverse EVPs again, and then we're going to hopefully announce his huge project. He's creating something. I'm just going to leave it at that. He's creating something that hopefully is going to help some folks out there, and I think it's really going to be something that is, again, groundbreaking in the field, because he not only he doesn't follow people, he leads the field, and he's bringing math and he's bringing science into the mix, which I think is something that a lot of people don't do. So kudos to him, and I can't wait to talk to him again about this.
I can't either. Brian's become a good friend of the show, and he's absolutely brilliant, and he's a funny guy. He is absolutely, he's a pleasure to talk to, and he's welcome back anytime.
He is, but you know who I think is the most hysterical guest that we've had on the show, Luci?
Someone who is literally talking on a different dimension.
You guessed it. How many of you out there remember the episode that we did with the two members from Deep South Paranormal? We had Hart Fortenberry and we had Keith Ramsey on the show from the sci-fi show Deep South Paranormal. And I literally, first of all, when the show ended, I had to listen to it again because there were parts of what Hart was talking about that I had no clue, and he wasn't talking science. He was talking his language that I could not understand him at all. He has that down south Louisiana throat that it threw me for a loop. He's just hysterical, Luci.
This is the first show that we actually needed subtitles.
Yeah, exactly. If we can put subtitles on the radio, that would be amazing. But the clip that I want to play now is Hart Fortenberry talking about getting the call from the Sci-Fi Channel in regards to him being a part of the show Deep South Paranormal. And I pulled this clip because he talks about the story about how what transpired as he received the call, the same call that Keith Ramsey got from Sci-Fi Channel, and I just thought that this was hysterical. So take a listen.
The theories behind the death, but when we did get, I kind of got the same call Keith did. So about whether who's a paranormal down there in Lafayette. Well, they contacted around. But cream always comes to the top. So I kind of boiled up through the bayou there. And Shane got some cross Sci-Fi's death, and I got a phone call. And I said, well, let me think about that. Okay. I'll come, GT, you go cast the thing. And I use this in real life every day. If you might see some videos of me, with a Django Unchained or something, this, that, and the other. And I've got this stick. I keep a GoPro on. I don't use a GoPro in the show. I take the camera off out of respect for the spirits.
Right.
But see, let me collect my what was it? I kind of get carried away sometimes. I get off the moment. What was the last thing I said anyway?
That you carry the stick around with you all the time. But you know what?
Here we go. So we over there. We went to this casting reel that we did, and we went down to where was that, Keith? It was a Lake Pontchartrain over there in it was a Fontaine Blue State Park. The holidays have an old sugarcane mill there, and some slaves had got displaced over there. There's a lot of activity. And so that's what we went and did. We did an investigation over there to put us on camera to see if these people were, compatible in a big deal. Because, originally they wanted to do just Louisiana and just New Orleans, those type of. So we got real colorful ghosts down here. All the Storyville, and the Congo Square, and the free men of color and all that. Okay, and so but they couldn't find. A big enough team, so that's why they cast a wider net and ended up getting Keith and Jonathan and Benny over there. And so we're coming down here. He got a big beard. I got a big beard. First we thought we was in competition. He's going to get it. We going to get it. We're going to have to do each other in these investigations. But, me and Keith got talking about music, this, that, and the other. We clicked. And then they say, are you this? Are you that? And they got my EVP going on with K2, and they get a little bit of response. I walk in there and say, come to the mail, the inside city station, Austin, I said, no, who's the Ghostbuster now, boys? It ain't so naturally.
Oh, my God.
I can't believe we made it through that interview.
That was one of the most paranormal experiences I've ever had on the radio.
They both were really great. Hart just has a personality all to his own, and I think that's what actually makes the show really, really great, and that's what makes that team really great. And I do hope that they are coming back to the Sci-Fi Channel, because there is nothing like this group. And, you may get a sense, if you've never watched the show, I don't want people to get the wrong sense just from this interview about how that show is about, what the show is about, and, whether or not they're really legit. They are legit. Their shows were amazing on the Sci-Fi Channel. Some of the evidence that they got, I've never seen before, heard before, and, putting that personality of all these guys and the one gal on that show, I think it was just so symbiotic that it was almost as if it was meant to be. The producers of that show were able to gather all of these folks from down south and put them together. They were from separate teams, and they put them together, and they just meshed so well. And I think Hart is the sticky glue that keeps everybody together and keeps everybody on their toes.
Well, you know what? I know the show really turned out to be something that I really enjoyed, you enjoyed, and there's a lot of people. But there are some people that didn't like the show. One thing I have to say, as far as the show goes, it is a breath of fresh air. It is a team that they're serious about what they do, but they don't take themselves seriously, and that is so much fun to watch. Watching these guys, you want to go investigate with them. You want to see what's going on, because they just make it look like so much fun.
But they're real people, and that's what we want to see is real people, not people who are acting or trying to be like other people. They're real. So
they're real.
They are real, and Hart is, maybe he was talking reverse speech, you think?
I think if we play that interview in reverse, we really will get some messages. You know that.
Maybe I'll be able to understand him better if I played in reverse. But again, we hope Deep South Paranormal comes back on the Sci-Fi Channel. I think Randy was trying to get a petition out there to everybody can sign it and get the show back on. So, whatever you guys can do, give some love to them, because I surely love them. And if you guys really liked, Heart and the episodes that they captured, go out there and root for them, because I think if anything else, it is entertainment, and it's a fun Wednesday night to spend.
All of the guys are on Facebook. They will answer you. They are for real. They are great guys, every single one of the members of the team.
Yeah, they've actually been talking to you, Lucy, about they've wanted to come back on the show. So I think maybe in the near future we will get them on, and maybe we'll get a bigger panel of all of them and see, how that interaction is with Hart, and see what more shenanigans that he creates during that interview. It'll be fun.
Can't wait.
All right. Speaking of can't wait, I can't wait to get to this next audio clip, Lucy.
Well, it's just this next clip. Things aren't always just puppy dogs and rainbows here on Paranormal Review Radio. This next clip is an actual example of some of the things that we talk about that really are a bit controversial. They are a little explosive, and we had some fireworks this night.
Well, I'm not going to, and I hope you don't as well, I'm not going to mention the name of the guest that we had on, because I don't want to.
No, I will not.
No. I mean, if you understand and you can recognize his voice, that's fine, but I will not say his name, because I don't want to give him any more promotion than we already did by having him on the show. Now, we spoke to this gentleman prior to him coming on the show. He has a controversial Facebook page and a website, and he's had controversial books that have been put out in regards to the paranormal and about attacking certain individuals within the paranormal community. And so we wanted to have him on the show to ask him point blank some of the questions that I know our listeners had and we ourselves had in regards to some of the accusations that he's claiming in his books and in his jargon. So we had him on the show. And prior to the show, he said to us in an email that there was something big that he's going to reveal, and he's going to wait to reveal it until we had him on our show. He wasn't going to do it on his website or his Facebook page or anything like that. He was going to wait for our show and reveal this, as he called it, earth-shattering or groundbreaking revelation. And so he wouldn't tell us what it was. Lucy and I had some guesses to what it was. Lo and behold, what we were guessing was completely out of the ballpark. And the clip that we have here is of him. This is the after effect of him revealing what this revelation was. And the revelation basically was that he was going to be writing a book about Gary Gulka. And if you know the name Gary Gulka, his name is pretty much synonymous with Ghost Adventures. He's been premiered and featured on the episode there. Gary Gulka lost his daughter years back in a car accident, and which led him into the paranormal field because he so desperately wanted to communicate with his daughter. And so he actually is the inventor of what everybody knows today as the millimeter, named after his daughter. I think his daughter's name is Melissa?
Yes.
So he's created the millimeter. And so somehow he has announced to us during the show that he is going to write a book about Gary Gulka and explain to everybody what the true story is in regards to how his daughter died, and that it actually is not the spirit of his daughter that is in their home. It is actually a demon and all this other nonsense. Now, we give everybody a fair shake. We were going to conduct the interview very legit. We were going to ask the questions pro and con in regards to his previous books, because we had not known anything about what this revelation was going to be. And as soon as this revelation was given out, we had a caller come on and had some inside information, because they apparently or somehow may have been, we don't know for sure, familiar and friendly with Gary Gulka. And this listener had some words for our guest. And I want to play the clip because I thought this caller was very eloquent. I thought that the conversation pretty much, Luci and I just sat back and let the listener and the caller take over because they were doing a great job. And so this is what transpired. Before I play the clip again, Luci, did you want to say anything else?
No, just play the clip. It speaks for itself.
Okay, this is actually a long clip, so grab some popcorn and listen because you're going to have a good time listening to this.
And you're going to see it in black and white.
Kirby, we've got a few callers on the line. Would you be comfortable taking some calls?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's go with area code 303. They've been on hold for a while. Here we go.
Hi,
area
am I on?
Hi, you're on the air with Anthony, Luci, and Kirby. Who is this?
Hi, thanks for having me on. Kirby, I have a couple questions when it comes to the Galka case. You're talking about basically your perspective to crack open that what the production company and what GAC did wrong in perspective of telling Gary's story. I would like to know, first off, is Gary okayed you to do this book?
Well, thank you for answering me this. I will not profit from this book whatsoever. The profit of this book is going to be totally donated to distracted drivers and victims of distracted drivers. This is
but that's not the question of the donation. Does he know that you're going to write this book?
Yeah.
He does?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I hate to differ with you because I know differently. And I would like to ask you that if your spirit guides tell you that you know the story, do your spirit guides also tell you what you wrote in your blog, that he has a devil in his home and that is really not his daughter, but it's a demon that's talking to him?
I'm glad you pointed that out. Those blogs will be removed before the publishing of the book.
And why would they be removed? Why would you want to remove them?
Because my position has totally flip-flopped.
And why would that be?
Because information that I uncovered, putting pieces together, looking at the EVPs and the footage that was not included within the episode, and putting it together and putting a timeline together and looking at it from, because like I said, I have a New Age background, I have a Christian background, I have a psychological background as well as a critical analysis background, because I also sit there and I looked at all the blogs that were written concerning the Gary Galka case, and when I talked to Gary Galka, I said, your situation with Melissa is exactly like the Amityville horror case, as in the sense that this is a case that so many people have so many varying opinions on and outlooks on, and 99 and 9/10% of them don't know what they're talking about or have their own personal axe to grind. And this is going to be a very open, very moving and touching book. This is not going to be a scandalous book. It's not going to be a hateful book. This book is going to tell a very moving and touching story that for some reason GAC chose to focus on more of I really don't know how to phrase their story. It's like they had a great story sitting right in front of them, and for some reason they missed the real issue of the story.
Well, and I think it was one of their most touching episodes, and I think Gary felt comfortable with it because I spoke to Gary, and Gary told me that he got to see all the footage and how they were going to edit it, and he didn't have an issue with that. You've got to remember that this is a production, and they only have so much time, and there's a lot of things that they have to cut out that might be more relevant. But yes, it is a TV show, but there was nothing faked on this TV show.
No,
and for you to blog, listen, hear me out. For you to blog that you said, and now you're backtracking on it, that she was a devil or whoever the demon is in his house. That's ludicrous to even say that about a man who's grieving about his child. Not only that, you also plugged in the fact that they didn't say that the Galka family felt guilty because they took her daughter off of life support. Who are you to say that? Who is anyone to say that? okay? And just let me say this, sir, that I have a son that I had to do the same for, and who are you to hurt my feelings as well as Gary's feelings and any other parent out there that had to go through that kind of a hell to have to make that decision? Who are you to say that you are all and your blog is all and the people that write for your blog are all that in a bag of chips and they know everything? I hate to say this, but I feel that you're discrediting yourself right now here, too.
No, ma'am, let me respond to that. Since you want to open up wounds, I'll open up wounds. I lost a child over 32 years ago. I was involved in a relationship. A woman went out and had an abortion without ever telling me that she had the abortion. I did not learn about that until after she had it, and there was not a dang on thing that I could do. So Victoria, would have been 32 years old today.
But your daughter never was born, correct?
It does not matter. If you lose a child,
yes, it does matter, because this was a living human being that
and
died, and then you have to go and blog and say that this is really a demon in this poor man's house, and they felt guilty about pulling the plug. She was brain dead. They had to pull the plug. So who are you to say that and pass judgment? And if you're a good Christians aren't supposed to do that, especially with karma. You believe in karma? Guess what? It's going to get you one of these days because you cannot treat people that way. They have feelings.
Well, when you read the book and send me your email address, send it to free.
Oh, sure. And I'm going to talk to Gary about this book because I know for a fact he doesn't know anything about this, and I know for a fact that he would not okay this.
Send your email to my address. It's called freeallspirits@live.com, and I will forward you a free copy of the book. And you will be amazed. I don't want a free
copy of the book because I think that this all needs to be okay before you even put somebody's life out there and say that this is right, because it's from your perspective only. And your blog's right like you are God and you know it all. And that is not the case, my friend. Not the case.
You have a right to your opinion. I have a right to my opinion. I
do have a right, but I'm not saying my opinion's totally correct like you are. That's the difference between you and me. I'm stating facts, and you are stating speculation, and there is a difference.
No, I'm not stating speculation whatsoever. When you read the book, you're going to get facts that's not been given to anybody. GAC had them, but they chose not to express them on the show for some particular reason, that if you would express them on the show and had taken the time to look at the whole case from the beginning to end, it's an absolutely marvelous, life-affirming, positive...
It is, but you're trying, and I really don't think that your angle is correct on this, because let's just face it, your angle is to basically cut down the team who did the investigation with him also.
No, I'm
just
not.
Like you have...
See, you're judging... You're judging...
Well, you know what? How can I not judge from what you've put out already? You can only stand by the product that you have put out already, which you already have in the past. So how am I supposed to trust you on that?
Well, read the book, and you will be totally surprised about my conclusions and where I think the story goes.
Your conclusions. Again, your conclusions. You are not an expert. Even though you've done things, nobody knows for sure. And I really would like to know why you felt the need to put your conclusions out that this is really a demonic entity in his house and not his daughter, and now you're going to retract that. So are you telling me that you were wrong?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that honesty. That's probably the only honest thing I've heard tonight. And I'm going to let you go because I'm very upset right now. Okay, so Lucy?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Thank you, dear.
Okay.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Thanks for calling, dear.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, you ready for another one?
Kirby, you have to expect calls like that. I mean,
and you know,
it is natural.
You know, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't. You know, I've been in this long enough. We get daily death threats because of my blogs and my investigations and my books. So it's not something that I don't deal with on a daily basis, with the amount of hate mail that we get and the death threats that we get, and it doesn't bug me.
Yeah, it doesn't bug him. I'm sure it doesn't. Go ahead, Lucy.
No, the whole thing, listening to the whole thing, just really, the whole situation really did bother me because it was delving into a personal situation that happened to Gary Galka. And I think we mentioned it. If Gary was going to speak about it, Gary was the one to speak about it and not someone else.
Well, we did this show last year, August 31st of 2012, and we have yet to see a book on Gary Galka and the family from this gentleman. And so probably the show that we did with him and that caller that called in, maybe afterwards he had second thoughts. And maybe he, somehow miraculously grew a conscience that maybe what he was going to do was completely wrong. I think ever since that episode, he has put out, I think, one or two other books in regards to the natural people that he has attacked in the past. I mean, there are numerous books that he has attacked, Ron Buell, and the show Paranormal State, and there are several other people that he has attacked, and it's basically only on assumptions that he has made. There's no actual or factual documentation or anything that he has received from anyone that is legitimate, and he continues to do it. And one of the things that I want to bring up, and I don't know if we've ever discussed it before on the show, that after this episode, the show and the interview that we did here on Paranormal Review Radio with him, afterwards we had come to learn that he actually blogged. He had his little minions in the chat room who were creating snapshots of the conversations that were going on. And what he had done after the episode in the show that we did with him was create a blog on his website and attacked some of the chat members and the listeners that we had that were in chat that were talking about it, and were revealing some things and calling demeaning names to these people. I mean, this is how he operates. I wouldn't expect anything less. He is a 5-year-old child that just doesn't understand that you can't go around doing these things. He doesn't conceive them. And in addition to that, what he did was also in his blog bash Luci and I, and claimed that we ambushed him with the repeated discussions and all of the callers that we had, because there were several other callers that came on that were debating his theory on Gary Galka, and he claimed that we ambushed him. Now, I've said this to you, Luci, before. How can you ambush somebody if you don't even know what the revelation is going to be that he claimed? And so if he wasn't going to reveal to us what it was, how can we plan an ambush on him? I mean, it was completely ludicrous, completely insane, and I wouldn't have expected anything else.
Well, this person seems to beat the same drum over and over. It doesn't change, and I am just totally amazed for someone who claims to have a Christian background with some of the things that have come out of his mouth, some of the things that he's accused people of, and just some of the things that he's done. And as the caller had said, there is such a thing as karma, and I truly believe that one way or another he will know what that means.
I didn't want to bring up this clip, but I brought it up because I wanted to show people that, like you were saying, it's not all puppy dogs and ice cream that we conduct here on the show. We do get real, but the main reason why I wanted to bring this up was because I wanted to highlight the courage and the intellectualness of our listeners and our callers that call in, that there have been many other hosts of radio shows that have mentioned to us via messages and emails that said that we should have, cut the caller off, or that we should have interrupted and taken more control of the show. But you know what? I say no. Why do I need to control callers? Why do I need to control, how it is? This is everyone's opportunity to speak up and talk about what they feel is dear and near to them. And so if this caller felt the need to vent out what she was feeling, I'm going to give her the floor. I'm going to allow it. I'm not going to interrupt her. And I think at the one point towards the end, we felt as though she was retreating back and didn't want to take the abuse anymore or to release the anger anymore. That's when, Luci, you chimed in at the right moment, and she wanted to get off. She didn't want to just cut off. She was very gracious enough to then say to you, I do want to leave. I don't want to talk anymore, and you helped her through that. And so that's the reason why I wanted to have this clip on here to show everybody that it's not just us talking about it, but it's you guys who actually call in that make the show, and that really put the voice to the session, that bring it up and talk about it and put everybody on the spot, whether you believe them or not, whether they are hurting you or not, whatever it is. This woman who called in, I applaud her. I really do. I applaud her for doing that.
Well, our phone lines are always open, and we've always said this show is not just us talking. It is a forum for everybody. If there's something that our listeners want to add to the conversation, that's what we're here for, to let them speak. And I think that's what makes us different.
Well, I see the clock chiming down, and we've got a couple of more clips that, Luci, I want to get to. And these two, I think, are my favorite people that we have talked to. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about the next clip?
The next one, this person is one of our favorite people on earth. This person is amazing, and she is another one that she is busy, but she always has time for us.
And who is she?
It's Robin Marie.
Did you fall asleep there? I don't know what happened to you.
No. It's world famous Robin Marie. And if you're not familiar with her, she is a medium. She is an author, and she is a filmmaker, and she is just simply fantastic. And
she's become a dear friend of ours.
Yes.
And the clip that I wanted to play was a very special one. And, we've had her a few times on the show. But this one in particular was a little bit more special than the rest of them. Because Robin Marie is from Boston, this show was done on May 17th. And if you all remember what was going on during that time, on May 17th, this is when the Boston Marathon bombers were on the loose, and it was a completely crazy week that week. But that Friday, the Friday that we were on the air, and right before Luci and I went on air live to talk to our other good friend, Noah Tysick, we actually were in touch with Robin, and we said to her that we'd love to have you on the show because at the moment, right before we went on the air, they caught the second bomber. And we wanted to get the feeling from Robin, what was going on in Boston, what was the feeling like, bring us to Boston, bring all of us to Boston. And in doing so, she was a little bit more revealing to the fact that she actually had a dream, and she talks about this dream. And Luci and I were sort of trying to create the link between the bomber because she is a psychic, and so the link to the bomber and her dream. And so here's a clip that I wanted to share with everybody in regards to that.
Oh, what a crazy week.
Well, why don't you tell us where you are now? And we've just learned, and over the news that I've been listening to before we went on the air, that the second suspect was caught. But tell us where you are right now, and what town and what's going on there by you.
I'll tell you, just moments ago, we literally had a spontaneous parade that broke out in the streets because now he just recently was captured, and they've taken him to a hospital, so he is alive. We wanted him alive, so we'll be able to have some answers given to this. And they're still checking around to make sure there's not more bomb explosives and things that may be detonized. And so they're being very cautious about it, but everything pretty much is going back to normal after a whole week of this. We've been on lockdown. Today we lost cable, we lost cell phone connections several days this week. Even the power was off this afternoon. So
what has it been like for you all week since Monday?
me personally, if you're trying to get at that, me being a spiritual person, I wrote about a lot of these things happening. I've had precognitive dreams about all of this, and so to me, it's been personally very, very disturbing. Very hard to sit there and see my dreams and visions that I've had be played out. And, unfortunately, there isn't anything that I could do about that.
Were you actually getting visions of prior to Monday? Were you getting the visions and thoughts?
Here's the thing. 2 Fridays ago, I did a radio show. So, you can even listen back to, the recordings and all of this. The night before, I had a dream. This is 2 weeks ago on a Thursday night. And John Kennedy came to me, and he showed me something that I knew that it was something that was going to have impact on people. But I didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And, of course, the JFK Library, all of that was involved in all of this standoff and the explosions. There was a suspicious fire that broke out at the library at the same time the bombs were going off. And now we're going to have more answers now that we have this guy, if in fact it was related. But it looks suspicious. But the night before I did that radio show, JFK actually came to me in the dream, and I was walking upstairs, and it looked as if it was the front of the Lincoln Monument. But that's also very typical to the way that the JFK Library looks here in Boston. And I may have been wrong in assuming where that was taking place. But I walked up the staircase, and JFK was at the top of it, and he started walking towards me. And I always know when it's one of those special dreams because it's very suffocating to me. Whoever I see in the dream, it's like they almost go into my face, and I can't breathe. So I knew that as that happened, it was something very significant. The staircase that I was on split into 2. And it wasn't a bomb or anything like that. It wasn't from an explosion or an accident of any type. It just very cleanly split, and the staircase broke away from me. And I was wondering what the symbolism was behind that. And I just feel like all of this broke out only several days after that.
Could it have been that you... I'm sorry, Lucy, just one more thing. The splitting of that staircase into 2, I don't know, maybe I'm just grasping at straws, but could it have been the 2 suspects and the crumbling down? It's just the shake-up of the concrete and what had gone on there. I may be grasping, but that's what I'm getting when you're saying that.
I know. It was very clear that there were 2 parts, and I felt like, it was a division of civilians and government.
You there, Lucy?
Yeah. No, Robin, I'm listening. You know what? When Robin speaks, it is absolutely fascinating because she truly is a gifted psychic and a medium. And some of the things that she brings forth are just truly, they're amazing. And I love listening to her. I love her insights. And she just really is a very beautiful person.
It was very fitting to have her on, especially just to learn about this dream that she had, because I had no knowledge of it prior to getting her on the phone and getting her on that night that we were on live. And so I thought it was very fitting, very great. Robin is an amazing woman, like you says, and we're actually going to be having her back on the show at the end of this year to talk about some predictions for 2014. And maybe we'll have some callers come in, and maybe she can do some readings for them. So that is going to be a great show. I know we have a few minutes left, Lucy, so I wanted to get on to our last audio clip. And to me, this episode, this show, was one of my favorites. This, to me, I give kudos to you, and I don't know how much money I owe you for actually getting this person on air with us. but this was a wonderful experience for me. I had the time of my life talking to Ryan Buell from Paranormal State. He has been someone that I have always watched on television, that has been a friend of mine on Facebook, but not as close. But it was truly an amazing experience to be able to talk to him about the paranormal and the medical conditions and the health that he is going through right now. And so I pulled a clip that I wanted to share with everybody. I'm going to do it very quickly because we wanted to sort of end the show correctly. So here's the clip that Ryan Buell talks about the paranormal and his health, and I think it is a very poignant discussion that he shares with all of us. Do you think that maybe not being in the paranormal for all the years that you've been in the field may have a different mindset now in regards to your medical condition? Do you think that maybe the paranormal possibly, and it may sound weird, may have helped you cope with things, if that makes sense to you?
Maybe. I mean, I met people who've become friends who had their heads on their shoulders way more than I did. I mean, I was very destructive and angry for a while, especially in the first, I'd say, 6-8 months. I've kind of had been given the role as kind of leader of the family. I was the first to go to college, making, so many great, tremendous steps and milestones, and the future just kept looking brighter and brighter. With the paranormal, you'd think so, but I will tell you that, I don't know, I became angrier. I became, I almost had a bit of a sense of entitlement, like, I've been doing all this. Why this?
Right.
I've just been hit by a car, or, saved a kid from a burning fire instead of this slow death and watching everything, or my perception is of watching everything deteriorate around me, which isn't very true. But, it has, the paranormal is so complex, and faith is very simple. It's accepting loss, it's accepting death, it's understanding that there's no guarantees, God giving you everything. And I'm speaking to all religions, even people who are agnostic or just spiritual. God or gods, the universe, whatever you want to call it, if it gave us everything we wanted, that wouldn't really be faith. And so, dealing with the paranormal, it seemed to make things more complex for me in trying to understand what was going on, because maybe it's because I think a lot, but it didn't make things easier, I don't think. But then again, I don't know if, had I not, maybe things would have been simpler, because for me, I thought about all my cases, the dark work, the light work, the in-between, and, I've gotten I've had the question asked to me, which at one point angered me, but now I've understood its relevance, which is, Ryan, do you think your work with the church or with the demonic had anything to do with this? And, if it did, what can I do about it? I can't sit there and fear every single thing, because, if some force out there had the power to give me this and other things as punishment, then clearly it can do more.
Right.
And if there's a dark side, there's clearly a light. So it may sound like a cheesy answer, but there's a purpose to everything. And it's taken me some time to understand that. So,
you know what? We've come to the end of our second anniversary show, and you know what? It feels so good to say that. I know we've said this before, but I want to say it again. Thank you. Thank you to every single one of you who have spend part of your Friday nights with us. You're more than just listeners. You really have become friends of ours. Your input, both good and bad, have helped us to make this show what it is. We look forward to each week. Our chat room has become a place where friends meet and act a bit crazy after a long week. The friendships and connections that everyone has made there are so amazing and so wonderful. Thank you for coming with us when we investigate. Our live remotes have been such fun. You have all been part of the connections we make at each location when we've broadcasted from them. We do this show for all of you, and we love you. We want to also say thank you to the guests who have stopped by and visited us here. We've talked to some of the most interesting and fantastic people, and we've always wanted to bring you the guests you want to hear from, and we've delivered some of the best. We've learned from each and every guest that we've had, from the funny to the serious. Each one has been an honor to talk to. Each show has given us answers and raised a few more questions every time we finished one. We're not done yet. We've got so much planned, and trust me, the best is yet to come. Finally, I want to say thank you to you, Anthony. You are my partner in the paranormal, both here on the air and in my life. You watch out for me. You keep me in line. You reel me in when I drift off. You've taught me to see things in a whole different light. You've taught me patience. Well, maybe not, but everything happens for a reason. I can't imagine ever doing this with anyone else. Even though I make you crazy, you put up with me. You're my guardian angel, and I love you. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to see where this path will take us, and I know there's so much ahead to explore. There's so many answers to search for, and I can't wait for it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, if there's one show that we want everyone to listen to, it is next week's show. Next Friday, October 25th, Anthony and I will celebrate Halloween a bit early. And for the first time ever on the show, and maybe ever on radio, we are going to have someone perform a live exorcism. This will be a very interesting and possibly the scariest show that we've ever done. So make sure you tune in October 25th for this special episode. So, dear friends and family, before I get too mushy, stay beautiful and have a paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio.